In this video, we're actually going to be talking about our first time home buying experience. Hey Wealth Builders, my name is Mishak.
And I'm Akiva.
And welcome back to another episode of The Bemused. On this channel, we talk about all things personal finance for young adults just like you and us.
So if you're into that stuff, go on ahead and hit that big red subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell so you never miss when we post new valuable content just like this video right here.
As you guys probably saw, you saw our video where we discussed all the money aspects of the house. But in this video, we're really going to get a little bit more personal and into our personal story in the house that we are actually recording in right now.
And you've also seen the house tour, if you looked at that link above as well.
Yes. So let's get right on into it because we have a lot of points to cover. So let's go to the very beginning. So as you guys know, Akiva and I got engaged back in 2019, October. And the plan at that point, up until maybe early 2020.
Up until March.
Yeah, up until
Probably.
March 2020 was for me to move from where I was living in Maryland to the greater Boston area in Akiva's apartment. Her roommate was going to move out and I was going to move in, and we were going to live in that space and, make that work. And it wasn't until after the pandemic happened, Akiva came down to Maryland and we were staying together, that the opportunity kind of fell in our laps, actually because of some research that Akiva had been doing. She knew how important it was to me, or that it was a strong desire of mine to own a home, relatively younger, as opposed to waiting, years and years into life to do that and into our marriage. And I'll let her kind of take it from there because she's the one who really discovered it.
Yeah, so I was just doing some research. I was like he said, I knew how important that goal was to him eventually. And, as we were talking about what our plans would be once we got married, I'm like, you know what, let me at least try to do the research and see if there's any way that we can make this happen. So, of course, I came across one of the Massachusetts first-time homebuyer programs. The One Mortgage specifically is the loan product that we went with, the program that we went through. And I looked at the requirements. We talked about that at length in our previous video where we broke down all the numbers in terms of, minimum down payment being only 3%, no PMI. At that point, obviously, of course, interest rates had just plummeted at the beginning of the pandemic, and so interest rates were super low. We ended up getting a 2.94% interest rate on a 30-year mortgage with no PMI, which was awesome. So looking at the requirements, looking at everything, I said, you know what? This is doable. And so I talked to Mishak about it, and that's really what started this whole conversation, or this whole process of looking into buying a home.
So now here we are. We found this great program. Being the person that Akiva is, she hopped right on it. And the next thing that we did was we actually took a look at our finances. So we looked at how much cash we had in our accounts, which wasn't really difficult for us to do because we've been tracking our net worth.
You guys know how much money we have. We literally had comments quarter after quarter like,
how come you guys hold so much cash? You could be doing this with it.
Why we also had so much cash was because, of course, at that time we were maintaining separate households. Like I said, we didn't live together, anything like that. I had my own emergency fund. He had his own emergency fund. We had separate lives, separate monies. And so at this point, we're looking like, okay, well, we're engaged now. We're going to get married. Like, how much money do we need in our married life, in our emergency funds, or in all these cash buckets? And when we really took a look at it, we determined that we felt comfortable enough to take a chunk of that money and use it to putting toward this basically goal that we had no plans for. It just really, we discovered the program and we got right into the process. So because we had so much excess cash, we were able to comfortably make that move without it putting any strain on our personal finances.
Mm-hmm. So we felt that, like you said, we were financially stable to do something like this. And that kind of segued into the next thing that we did. So Akiva decided to, hey, it's great that this program exists and we have the cash, or so we thought, but let's actually put pen to paper and let's create a budget. because I will admit I'm kind of the person where, yeah, like we got the money, like, you know, we got the cash, like screw the emergency fund, like this is what we want to do. And that was me kind of just thinking really crazy.
You do not want to be house poor. That was my main thing, was like, we are not buying a house if we cannot afford it. So we need to make sure that we got everything else secured, the bag is secured before we try to make this move, because that's the last thing you want to do, is be house poor, where you jump the gun, you buy something, and then realize later on that it was more than you can handle. And that's not what I was trying to do at all.
So we established that budget.
And that was our first kind of attempt at even making a joint budget. And we'll make a video after this talking about what our joint budget actually now looks like now that we're married. So stay tuned for that. But that was our first crack at, okay, this is how much you make, this is how much I make. This is our ideal budget. This is how much money, the same kind of process that I used in my very, very early budgeting video on this channel is the same process we kind of went through together. And we mapped it out in Excel and we said, this is how much money we can afford to spend on housing. So therefore we backed into, this is how much house we can afford. Are there houses in this program, in this area, that are even in that price range? Yes? Okay, doable, let's go.
So then next, after we established that budget, we moved on to the next step, which was actually kind of the most solidifying phase, that it was getting real, where we actually had to go through the process of getting pre-approved. So we worked with our loan officer at the bank that we used. And of course which we went over in that video, they asked for a whole bunch of financial information on the very tip of iceberg level, just to get you that pre-approval. And thankfully for us, we were approved, and we moved on to the next phase. So the next phase for us was to find an agent, and that is the route that we chose to do. We actually did not have to go with an agent, and the program that we were in was actually really helpful, in my opinion, for first-time home buyers. And I'm not trying to endorse them in any way, but as a part of the program, you had to go through steps, and in one of those steps it told you, hey, you can represent yourself as an agent, you can hire an agent, and the multiple different things. We just decided to hire one, and Akiva's gonna speak to you about that because she was very adamant about the type of agent that we went with.
Yeah, so during this whole home buying process, I'm trying to hire everybody black, straight up. So it was a very monumental moment for us, because to us, home buying isn't just about home buying. Home buying represents so much more. As black people at our age, being able to own a home is a very major deal because of the massive home ownership gap, the barriers to home ownership that have existed for centuries in this country for people like us. And so I wanted in this process to support as many people of color as I could. So our loan officer was a black man. Our real estate agent was a black female. So the people that we had control over hiring, as much as possible, I had wanted them to be people of color. It didn't all turn out that way. Not all of our people were people of color. Our real estate agent, we were working with a really, really tight timeline. And so we just kind of went with the first recommendation that we had. So they did not turn out to be people wanted to be. Our inspector, I tried really hard to find a black home inspector. Could not find a black home inspector in the whole state of Massachusetts. So didn't end up that way either. However, we tried where we could, and our people that we really worked with the most throughout the process, our real estate agent and our loan officer, I was happy that we were at least able to work with people of color in that capacity.
And again, just for context here, Akiva came to Maryland on March 16th. And I want to say by the end of March, we had already been pre-approved. The
pre-approval date was March 26th. I don't know why I remember that very vividly, but I remember I can see the letter in my face right now, March 26th.
We were pre-approved by March 26th. So, like I said, it happened very quickly, and we moved very fast. So now we're at the end of March, beginning of April. We're looking for houses simultaneously as Akiva was looking for an agent, because to be quite honest, she was really the person who was looking into that a lot more. Even at one point, we were considering switching to an all black owned bank at one point to do our mortgage with. So that was something that was extremely important to us to do that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. Again, I don't think it was financially beneficial for us.
The timeline we were working with at that point, it just wasn't feasible by the time I learned about it. But like I said, our loan officer who worked at the bank was black, and so I was fine with that.
And then the next thing we did was we started to look at homes. So now we found our agent. We're looking at homes on Zillow, on Realtor.com,
the
on
day
anywhere.
I unsubscribed, the day I hit unsubscribe from Zillow, the day we closed on this house, it was like a relief was lifted off my head because Zillow became everything for us.
So, we were looking at multiple homes online, and just looking at anything that we liked, again, being very mindful of budget because we had that in mind. But, as we started to look at homes and all that sort of stuff, we decided to then look at creating a spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet is really where we were able to get into the nitty-gritty, where I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, some of the numbers that we had thought that we could have afforded,
we couldn't.
We actually could not afford.
But it was fine. Our pre-approval was for an amount that was above what we ultimately ended up knowing that we could do. But that was fine because we were pre-approved for more. So,
yeah,
it didn't hurt.
And I believe, I don't want to lie, but I think we were looking at houses that were like 300 or around there. And after, like I said, we started putting things into that spreadsheet that we just weren't thinking about. We knew of or weren't thinking about property taxes and different things like that outside of the actual cost of the home. It was like, oh, okay, no, we can't afford that. Like, it's actually this, because when we add in all of these different things, this is where our top number is. Like, we factored in everything. Utilities, everything that we would need for the home, travel costs for Akiva to get to and from work. Yeah. I was moving, so we didn't exactly know where I was going to be working at that time. So all of those unknowns as well, trying to keep that as much as possible in that plan as well. We looked at houses that way.
Yeah, and ownership structures are, of course, very different. We looked at various types of houses. We looked at this really old, like so old, it was so beautiful, but it was honestly going to cost us so much money to maintain. It was very clear from just looking at it, just because of the age of the house. So you got to factor that in. There was one house that was on the lower end, but it was super far. So if I was commuting to work, at that point, of course, we didn't know what the post-pandemic plan would have looked like in terms of commuting, going back to work. But assuming that I need to go back into the office at some point, that would be a lot more money in gas every month because it was so far. Others where, they were just single family houses where, of course, all the utilities, some ran on propane, some we had to buy, different types of utilities that, had to account for all of that. For example, this house that we have right now, you guys know it's a condo structure. So, we don't have to pay all the utilities and everything like that are included in a flat HOA fee. So there were so many different ownership structures also to be aware of. And so the cost fluctuated a lot depending on the type of house, the location, the other ancillary costs that came along with it. So to really just wrap our minds around it, we needed a spreadsheet to compare.
So just for context, we looked at 5 homes. Different time frames for those, but 5 is what we actually physically looked at.
And we were traveling back and forth from Maryland to Massachusetts to look at these houses. So it was a trying time.
So for the first 3 that we looked at, 2 of them were in the same complex. We absolutely loved them when we went there and we saw them. And the other one was in more of a rural type of a thing. It was the house that she mentioned earlier. Nice, big, grand, beautiful house. We had like a quarter of an acre around the house. It was beautiful, but probably just a little bit too much house for us with our tight budget. Like she mentioned, it was also very old. If something were to happen to that house, it would have probably, really hit our emergency fund very hard because... And
just the landscaping on that thing. Oh my goodness.
It would have been a lot to maintain. But it did have a rental unit, which would have helped us a little bit.
Which we never got to see. But I digress.
But it was a beautiful house. The other 2 homes are similar to this one, condo structure, where all the houses were, connected together, and we loved those houses. One of them was a 2-bedroom, and the other one was a 3-bedroom. So the 3-bedroom would have definitely been nice. Recording space, which we're in now, and then have an extra bedroom. And we can actually kind of share our experience on that as well. So we actually put in offers on those first 3 houses that I mentioned. We put in offers on 2 of them. correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Right?
The market, first of all, at the time we were looking, was beyond hot. It was on fire. If a house was on the market for 48 hours without an offer, that was an eternity. When I tell you we had to jump, when you see a house, you had to jump because it was going to be gone. That first house we looked at, that old big house, by the time we left the property that evening, there was an offer in, and they had accepted an offer the next day. That's how quickly these moved. Even the house, we went to see those two houses that were in the same area.
Structure.
We put in offers the same day.
There was a line outside the door to get into that house. Again, it was pre-COVID. It was not
Also,
pre-COVID.
it was COVID.
It was COVID. So they were limiting the amount of people that could go into the property at a time. And the price was like ridiculously low. It was like $190,000 for the house, if I remember correctly. But it was pretty
so
spacious.
well kept.
It was pretty spacious,
so
well kept. It was only owned by like one older couple before they were the first owners. So it was in really great condition. Had a nice little patio out in the back. Had really great storage. Probably not as much storage as here, but the bedrooms were a lot bigger than here. But anyways, we put in an offer on that house, and sadly it was denied. Not because it wasn't a good offer. I feel like we had one of the strongest offers that were put on that property. But that home taught us a very great lesson. That cash is truly king. Because they accepted an offer of someone who was putting down 50% in cash on the table.
Yes, less than what we were offering, but it was mostly in cash. So, and that was one downside. Honestly, working with this program, it's great because the minimum down payment is 3%, but that don't always work for a lot of sellers. And that's what we've learned is that some sellers, they don't like the fact that you're not putting down as much money because it makes you more risky in their eyes. So it is also one downside of buying a house this way.
And to explain that to you guys, the reason why most sellers prefer people who have more money that's being put down is because simple math. If you are taking out a loan for $100,000 for your home and you're putting down 10%, and someone is coming and they're willing to put down 25%, the amount of money that you will need to take out is, roughly $90,000, give or take. And the person who came behind you will need to take out $75,000 for their loan. The bank is probably more likely to approve the person who has less money that they're taking out for that home, and that's why sellers tend to favor that offer more than your offer. Although you might have even, in our case, put in a stronger offer, it was more than the value of the home. They would prefer to go with that because, especially during COVID, although it was such a hot market, things were falling through every day too.
Exactly. People were losing their jobs on a daily basis, so they want to have something that's a little more secure.
Yes.
So they accept your offer and then you can't get your loan anymore.
They don't want to go through that whole process and then be told, well, oh, Meshach's, financing fell through, and then it's like, wow, I got to put this thing on the market all over again and all this sort of stuff. They just didn't want that hassle. So that was the first house. Second house we went to, same complex. It was 3 bedrooms. Wasn't as nice as the first property, but we liked it because we truly liked the location. Like, it was very nice. We had Planet Fitness and a couple, major chains in the area. It was in an area that seemed to be, nice. Like, they kept the landscaping up in there. Like, as we were driving in, it was absolutely gorgeous. So we liked it. We had 2 assigned parking spots. There was a pool there. There was a clubhouse. So we loved it there. We didn't get that one. They rejected our offer. We don't know why. Or at least I don't remember why, but they rejected it. And
but it was fine.
It was fine.
We didn't love it as much as the first one anyway. So we're like, okay, whatever.
And that major house, the old house that we spoke about, besides the fact that it would have probably been too much house for us, the area was a little sketch, for us, being quite honest. I'll just leave that there. It didn't seem like it was something that was gonna fit us.
I'll be very welcoming. Let's put it that way.
Yes. So fourth house that we looked at, I actually don't remember.
That was the new build.
Yes, that was the new house that I was trying to convince Akiva to buy.
Don't know why. It was above our budget.
And here's why. Because this house that we purchased, we actually put in an offer sight unseen. Akiva stumbled upon this house. She had like Zillow notifications popping up, and at like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, the house that we purchased was listed on the market. And she was, because we had the spreadsheet, she ran the numbers. She was like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. We can make this work. It's like 20 minutes from my job. Like all the boxes are being checked. It's great. We can afford it, yada, yada, yada. So she couldn't wait. She woke me up. And she's like, hey, you got to look at this. We need to act on this now. So she calls up our agent. She's like, hey, you need to go and look at this house now. Like,
we're in Maryland.
Because we're in Maryland.
So I'm like, sis. You need to go, grab your phone, you're going to FaceTime us and go look at this house because we need to see it.
So our agent gets here, gets us on FaceTime, and she is showing us the property. And we're like, yeah, it's not bad, looks good. She's like, yeah, it looks good, yada, yada, yada. We put in an offer. The experience after we put in the offer.
Here's where it gets interesting.
Was interesting. So again, the market is moving fast. We're expecting, because for all the other places that we put in an offer, we got an answer in like 48 hours the latest. We got a response, sometimes even sooner than that. So we were expecting, quick. It was like, okay, if we don't get it, like let's move on to the next thing. But they kept us, for a long time. It was like a week.
It was probably over a week, honestly. We were growing very impatient in the meanwhile.
And, it was like, okay, but then they kept, oh, well, you have the best offer and da-da-da. You have no need. Their agent telling our agent, you have the best offer. There's no need to worry. Everything is going to be fine. Yada, yada, yada.
They're just not used to this.
We're feeling confident.
Yeah.
Because we're like, this is great. We have a great offer. We're going to get this house. Then, about a week later, our agent, because we start pressuring our agent like, yo, you need to tell them that they need to give us a response. This is crazy. It's been a week. If they're not going to accept our offer, then we need to be looking someplace else.
In the meanwhile, we're missing out on other houses that are coming up on the market.
That we, could possibly take. So she's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm going to pressure them. She pressures them. They're, making all these excuses. The people who are selling are not used to selling a house. Yada, yada, yada. But long story short.
Meanwhile, I'm stalking the sellers on LinkedIn. Like, that's how bad it got. I was like, no. They're like, because I hate that about real estate. It's like, you're supposed to only talk to their agent. We can't talk to their agent. We can't talk to the sellers directly. Everything has to go through our agent, which I find is just ridiculous. So I definitely did not listen. And I definitely found one of the sellers on LinkedIn and was messaging him and all kinds of stuff. Because I'm like, dude, what's going on? Like, this is who I am. This is my LinkedIn profile. You know where I work. You know what I do. You know who I am. I'm not, some fly-by-night person. So it was very trying. He never answered me, by the way. But I think it did add a little bit of fuel to the fire because, they did respond shortly after.
And they did respond saying that they denied our offer.
Yeah, they rejected it.
So that was very annoying.
To wait for so long for them to reject our offer.
It felt as if they were kind of using us as bait for potential people that were coming after us.
Would come.
To say, well, hey, we have an offer for X, and maybe you can do it, like that type of a thing. So we didn't appreciate it at that.
Not at all.
At that time, like
Very
we were
upset.
considered withdrawing. There was another house that was recently flipped that we were looking at that was pretty nice. Our agent kind of steered us away from that one. She was saying that, hey, there was an easement where the driveway was shared, which we didn't see from the pictures. So that's a good thing to always go out to the property and look at it, because from the pictures it can sometimes be a little deceiving. Because we did not know that at all. Our agent was the one who got us hip to that. But long story short, we didn't even put an offer on that one. And we appreciated their honesty, because we asked for a Matterport, which is like a 3D view of the house. And the agent who was selling the house initially, he was like, yeah, we're not giving you no Matterport. Like, this house, we've seen like how many people today, like we're trying to sell this house. Like, if you're not serious about putting an offer, like we don't even want to do business with you. I don't know how Akiva convinced them to send us over the Matterport. We saw it, we loved it, and we had that house kind of like in our back pocket, but we were still waiting on a response on this one. When we got the no for this house, it was like, dang, like we could have had that house, potentially. And that house sold like that. It was gorgeous. So maybe like a week later, We're still looking. We had that new house that we mentioned earlier that we had come and looked at.
The one that was over budget.
But it was over budget. But it was new. It was a duplex.
But it was over budget.
So it was just us and another house on the property. We had a backyard. We had a nice driveway. It was nice.
And over budget.
It was nice. It was nice. We had 3 bedrooms. They were small though. We had a basement, unfinished basement. It was a nice property.
And over budget.
But it was over budget. But for a short period of time, we were strongly considering biting the bullet and doing it.
And by we, he means him.
We were both consider doing it.
Whoever helps you sleep at night, boo.
But after Akiva really expressed how uncomfortable she was with being over the budget for a number of reasons, like I mentioned, I didn't have a secure job at that time that I was moving on to, so it was like,
still don't.
hey, yeah, still don't. So it was like, hey, like I don't feel comfortable doing this. Like this doesn't make sense. It's not gonna align with what we spoke about. It's gonna put us in a position where we could buy this house and lose it if, we can't afford to pay for it. So after, listening to that, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, I prayed on it, and I was like, you know what? Then we should put in an offer again on the house that they
it hadn't
declined
sold.
us. Because we were still watching it, and we noticed that it hadn't sold yet. So we were like, okay, what's going on here?
He convinced me to get back in the ring. I was like, no, these people are rude. I don't even want to go groveling back to them. And he was like, let's do it. Let's fight for this house. And I was like, okay.
We asked our agent to, and our agent was just like, are you sure? Like, I don't, I don't think this is a good idea. Like, they had you wait this long. They told you that, they rejected your offer. And we were like, yes, just put in an offer again. And when she put in the offer, their agent actually got back to us with to our agent, who then got back to us, because remember, flow through.
Yeah, we asked her to find out what it is that made them reject the offer. What was the concern so that we can try to address and mitigate those concerns.
And their concern was that we didn't actually come and look at the house physically, that we sent an agent to look at it for us, and in their mind that made them feel as if we weren't serious about the house, yada, yada, yada. Although we put in an offer and put in a strong offer, we weren't serious.
Or basically they thought that we were just going to be not living here full time, and they wanted whoever bought it to be living here full time. And to me, it was just well, if you knew anything about the loan product we're using, we have to live in it full time as a requirement of our mortgage. So we're going to live here. Obviously, we have roots here. I work in the area. Why would you not think that we'd be living here?
So we said, you know what, we're going to come and see the property. If that's going to prove to you that we are serious, then that's what we will do. So we hopped up, got in the car, and drove. And came here. And we got here, and the experience, as I mentioned, was a little shady. Their agent was kind of throwing side remarks we have another cash offer on the table and all this sort of stuff. And it's what? I don't get it. Why are you even mentioning this to us? But whatever. So came, saw it. Again, we liked it. There were some things that we didn't like, but we decided to, put in that offer.
Also, they wanted a little bit more of a down payment, which is why we ended up putting down 4% on the house ultimately instead of 3%. They asked us how far we could go, and we crunched the numbers, and we said, we can go up to 4%, and that's it. And so that's what we did. And so with those changes, then they came back and accepted the offer.
I guess at this time, they, felt hey, this bad boy's been on the market for a little while. We also kept them running along. I don't know what happened behind closed doors that we truly don't know about. But at the end of the day, they accepted our offer. And from there, the wheel pretty much got turning. Because this house was being purchased from the owner's estate, it was a little bit of a different process. Not more so for us on our end, but more on their side. They had to go to court to get some things approved. We were worried about COVID, how is this going to work? We also had a very tight time frame that we wanted to purchase the home in because we got married in October, but Akiva's lease was ending on her apartment in August?
It was August 31st.
August? So it was look, we need to close by mid-August so that she can move all her stuff out. And it was okay, this is what the plan was initially. So they accepted, great, those terms are fine, that works. We go through all the weeds of the loan, the asking for information every 2 seconds about that financial thing, this financial thing, which we detailed most of those items in that other video, which we will also put in the cards.
But it's a lot.
Again,
that is the moment when your loan officer
yes.
becomes your best friend.
Yes. We're in communication with the loan officer.
Like daily, honestly. It's so much.
Daily.
It was a lot.
So that was a whole ordeal. But what made it great was the guy was really personable, and really made it
a
job to like kind of honestly really check in and see how you were doing. Like, hey, I need this. I think you sent this, but send it again, which was a bit annoying. But we send things twice, just to make sure. And then the next part of the phase was to actually get an attorney. We needed an attorney to represent us in everything that was going on with the purchase of the home. And through that process, we also learned, which we mentioned in that other video, I believe.
Yes, we did.
That we needed an attorney, and we decided to go with an attorney that was going to both represent us and the bank. And you can watch that video to find out why. So now here we are. Months later, everything did somewhat go through smoothly, loose terms. It was a very frustrating process at times.
It was trying.
Overall, I think we can both say that we're happy with the outcome.
Yeah.
We closed on July 31st.
Yep.
July 31st, 2020. And it was a great experience to come into a place that was ours. We actually didn't live in the house. Even though we bought the house July 31st and we had the keys in hand, we didn't actually start moving things in until, August-ish.
Moved everything out of my apartment before the end of my lease was up in August. So we came up again, moved all of my stuff into the house toward the end of August.
And then went
back to Maryland.
Stayed there for about a month or a little bit less than a month. And then moved all my stuff in here.
Yeah.
And
in
then
September.
And then
Then was the wedding.
We were here for maybe like a day or two before the wedding. And then, all of that stuff happened. Went down to New York, where family is. So we actually didn't really move into our house until after we came back from our mini moon, as we are calling it. So that was like almost mid-October. So we have been in the house now for just over a month.
Yeah.
And it has been good so far. There have, again, been some challenges, because it just seems like challenges just follow us. But so far it's been a good experience. You can probably tell, in our I guess, house tour reveal, whatever the heck Akiva's gonna call it, you'll see all the changes that we've made. The room that we're recording in used to be red. I actually liked the red, but Akiva didn't.
I hated it. So sneak peek of now it's not red anymore.
Yes. So thank you for watching this very, very long video on our home buyer experience, but we thought it would be very valuable to share it with you guys so that you can get an idea of exactly how it went for us.
Yeah, especially as first time young Black home buyers, how this whole process went for us. It wasn't all rainbows and roses, but we made it.
And hopefully our experience in sharing this journey inspired you. Share with us down below in the comments how you're feeling. Are you looking into purchasing a home? Are you looking at interest rates? Is it something that you think you can do? We'll be happy to share more of our experience down below in the comments, possibly even a spreadsheet. I'm going to hold Akiva to that. Our spreadsheet that we use. Yeah, I'm holding her to it.
Okay.
Notice her. We're going to share that spreadsheet that we used, if that will be valuable to any of you guys, down below. Don't forget to purchase some merchandise from our store. We have a lot of new designs that have been uploaded there. So don't forget to take a look at that. Am I forgetting anything else?
Subscribe, hit the notification bell.
Yes.
Be a part, join the squad.
Of course.
Watch more videos.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we post new content. Thanks for watching. We really appreciate you. See you in the next one. Bye.
Bye. And we're rolling. Sorry.
The amount of money that they will need to take out in a loan is way less. It's $7,000 500? 70,
What?
750,000.
What?
75,000. I
Okay,
am
start
tripping.
again.